I am back for another week, and this time I have my good friend and fellow photographer, Nikki. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for
Hi.
having me.
Of course. Nikki, so what's your actual business name?
Yeah, it's Nicole Michelle Photography, but my Instagram handle is NicoleMichelle.photo. Name is Nicole, but I go by Nikki. So
Okay, so I already know, well, actually, I don't know everything about you, but let's start from the beginning because I don't know if I know your whole story of how you started. Why wedding photography? What were you doing before?
yeah, so it started off as a hobby. I'm sure it always starts off as a hobby for most photographers. And my story is a little more different. I actually had a jewelry business and I was kind of running everything on my own. So all the marketing, the designs, just wearing many hats. And so one of the components of running a jewelry business was having to take the photos. So I started just diving into photography, and my friend at the time was also a photographer. So I'd follow him around. We did some commercial shoots, and I actually did most of the product shots. So I actually had like a macro lens, and I would be photographing the products and learning lighting and just kind of experimenting and watching a lot of YouTube videos. And then from
Uh,
there, yeah, I mean, that's where everyone learns everything, right? So it's a great resource. And
yeah.
then I did family photos, and then someone asked me to shoot their wedding. I first said no because I've heard that weddings are super stressful. And then I kind of eventually caved in. I was like, you know what? Let me just try it. So I tried it and I showed up. It was in Vegas. And then they ended up getting COVID right when I was at their door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then when I was outside their door, the bride texted me and was like, "I'm sorry, we had to cancel the wedding." This is during COVID.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So
Wait, that was your first wedding?
yeah.
And that's how it went? So you didn't actually get to shoot your first wedding?
Yeah, I did
Oh
it.
my.
But, it was a win for me because it was like $1,600 and I was like, "Wow, that's so much money."
Okay,
And
I'd say, like, that's the most I've heard of someone receiving for their first wedding, and you win everything because you didn't even have to shoot it.
no, I did nothing. I mean, yes, I showed up. I just showed up.
You showed up, yes. I mean, but that's crazy. That was completely last minute. Oh my gosh, that they had to
Yeah.
cancel.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then that's when I kinda learned about contracts because at that point, it was my
Mhm.
first booking, right? So I was like, "What do I do? Do I refund the money or, is the bride going to ask for the money?" Luckily, I did have a contract that I kinda just got online, and luckily I had, the clause, and I was like, "Okay, well, I get to keep the money." So
Oh my gosh, yes, yes.
yeah.
Good thing for looking up how to do contracts for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
super important. So is there do you I'm curious, do you have in your contract something about being fed?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I feel like and I'm sure you do too.
I
Uh,
actually don't, but I probably should.
oh gosh, I
I
feel
know,
like
I
yeah.
know. But do you remember that was a whole big thing? It was like a whole like reel on Instagram about like photographers not getting fed.
Yeah, I've seen posts about photographers walking out because they didn't get fed, walking out on weddings. I think it's really important that your vendors are fed because you're on your feet all day for, how many hours? 6, 8, 10 more, a full day, right? And so obviously we need meals in order to get energy and fuel ourselves, So definitely I think it's just an important clause to have because in the case that you run into a situation where you aren't fed, then you want to be able to cover yourself, right? And also, if you're not fed, then you won't be able to perform optimally. And so then, that will impact the product or your photos, your client's photos. So, yeah.
Oh, definitely. Especially me because I get like so hangry and weak without
Mm.
that's why I have a ton of snacks, as you know.
Oh, yeah. You're always giving me your snacks.
So yeah, so for those who don't know, Nikki and I work together like a lot. It's been what, like has it been a couple years or less or more?
2 almost 2 or maybe a little more.
Okay, I it's like all a blur, but
Yeah. You
for
know,
sure.
time just flies when you're having fun, so
I know, and I do. We have so much fun. It's like, but we work so hard at this. Well, I'm speaking for you actually. Like you work so hard. Like at this last wedding, I hardly saw you.
No,
You
you work hard too.
well, I'm just saying, like the fact that I didn't see you is because you were getting so much else that there was a lot of details and
Mhm.
um it's so nice. Like I don't even have to talk to you anymore. Like we are so in sync, like you just know what to do. I don't it's such a nice feeling to have someone that you can rely on, that you're having so much fun working with. So, and then I love the fact that we travel together too. It's just it's nice when it's easy.
Yeah,
So,
no, definitely. I feel like we're in sync. We've worked together for quite a while, and so it's just comforting during weddings that we just know what to photograph. We know what I know what you're thinking, and I know what you need. So, like at the last wedding, right? There was just so many details, and I was seconding for you, and I knew that you needed to get the key shots, like romantics and the ceremony, and so obviously with you working as a lead, I knew that as a second that I had to get different perspectives that you wouldn't be able to get, right? So
yeah.
and also while you were shooting the romantics, it there was a lot going on the other end, right? Which is the reception and cocktail hour and details. And I just knew, okay, like I know the set needs these details. So I knew that what I had to do, which was get all that while you're doing your own thing, but making sure
Yeah.
that we're covering all our bases.
And you know what? Yeah, it's just so valuable to have a second shooter that's like you because you're seriously getting like every single little detail. And also something that I really appreciate that you do is you get like the venue, just like shots of the venue. And that's something that the couple appreciates too because they chose the venue for a reason.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, because as the lead photographer, you're focusing on the couple. So, it's not like you're focusing on the other details, and I feel like most of the time I feel like for myself, I don't wanna speak for you, but when I'm leading a wedding, I forget to shoot wides, like, I always forget to shoot wide sometimes, so I have to keep reminding myself. So whenever I'm seconding for you, I'm thinking, "Okay, what does the set need? What would add to the gallery, or how can I complement her images best?"
oh, I love that. Yeah. I mean, that's how a team should work, and that's how we give our couples a variety of photos. All right, so how long has it been now that you've been shooting weddings?
I think in total 3 years?
Okay.
3
Yeah,
years?
you know what? I remember I think you told me one time we were working it's been 2 years, and then I couldn't believe it. 'Cause, like, I feel like you've been the way that you work and your images, like, it seriously seems like you've been doing it for a lot longer. So
Oh, thank you. Well, I feel like I couldn't have gone to the place that I am without your mentorship and,
oh,
um, like, I feel like I've gotten to the place I am because as your second, being able to observe you during weddings and just learning how you interact with brides and grooms and families, it has taught me so much. And I think that as a beginner photographer, you don't think about these things like the interactions that you have with the bride and the groom and the families. You don't think about those aspects. You just think about, okay, let me just get the photo and that's it, right? But there's
yeah.
so many things that go into creating a great or elevated experience for the client. And so I feel like I learned those things from you. I feel like you're always learning something new. It's always a learning curve. Uh every single wedding you just take things with you for your next wedding. And especially as a beginner, uh everything's going to be new for you. So it's not like you're gonna go in and know what to do or what to say, for example, like contracts, right? For contracts, like you mentioned earlier, you asked me, do I have the meal clause in my contract? As a beginner photographer, you're not going to think about that, right? Or even copyright, right? So some couples will have their concerns about what you'll be doing with their photos, or whether what exactly copyright entails. And I think also outlining deliverables, but just so that some couples want their gallery within a certain time frame, and you need to deliver that because that's outlined on the contract. So I think that's one of the biggest things I had to learn in the beginning as a new photographer, is that your contract needs to be rock solid and it needs to outline everything, and the couple and you have to both be in agreement with all the terms, because
Mm.
that is the legal aspect of owning a business.
And that's a really important aspect, you're right. And on your contract, do you have it where they have to initial each clause, or it's just assigning at the end?
I have them initial each clause, and the reason being is that I actually want them to read through each clause, as
Yeah.
opposed to just having one lengthy document with a lot of words, right? I mean, it is a lengthy document with a lot of words, and then most of the time, some people just scroll to the bottom and sign, right? But they don't really read through the contract and acknowledge the terms in the contract. So having those subsections with the initials kind of force them to read the little clauses in between.
Yeah, no, very true. And then what about, like, the way that you shoot? Has that changed from the beginning to now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You learn something new every single day. In the beginning, when I first started shooting with you, I didn't realize that. I mean, I was taught by previous photographers syncing your cameras was really important. And the reason why that is important is because when you transfer over your SD card to the lead photographer, and then the lead photographer has to edit the photos, well, if your times are not synced and they're off, when the lead photographer would upload to the Lightroom gallery, everything would be out of order, and that would drive anyone insane. So I've been in those situations, and so just knowing that the first thing you should do when you meet up with your lead at the wedding is syncing your camera so you don't drive your lead crazy with editing.
There's a way to change the capture time, like, but it's still kind of hard because I have to find your picture from, like, the first kiss and try to hope that it's the exact same second that I got my first kiss, and then I'll change your pictures to my time. But yeah, it's definitely better to do it right from the get-go when you meet up. That's why I think it's best to, like, arrive, like, at least 15 minutes early, just to
Mhm.
get your bearings, meet up with each other, do all that.
Yeah, yeah, so lots of things that a beginner photographer would not take into account, because there's just a lot of things that you have to do to prepare for the day.
Yeah, yeah. So, speaking of preparing for the day, I know that you work with planners, and you probably didn't at first, like all of us.
Alright.
And so, I mean, isn't that so nice to not have to worry about the time? Like, you're kind of like the coordinator also, when you don't, when you're first starting out, the budget doesn't call for a planner. Maybe there's a day of coordinator, but many times there were not. So, I mean, that's definitely nice, right? For you too, like, just to not worry about a timeline, and maybe so that means, like, you can prepare more for with other aspects. Like, what are what is your process before a wedding?
Yeah, so I typically like to meet with the planner or have some kind of conversation with the planner prior to the wedding, because the planner is the one who kind of controls the timeline, right? They're the ones closely working with the bride and groom and then finalizing the timeline. And I think it's important if the photographer has input with the timeline, because sometimes a lot of people assume that things can be done in 5 minutes. And so, as a photographer, you need to
Don't we
provide that input, because
Yeah.
sometimes they'll say, "Okay, first look will only be 5 minutes." And then you'll kinda have to go, inform all the parties, the planner, the bride and groom, "Hey, I just want to let you know we need to have a realistic timeline, but also we need to allot enough time for the first look," right? So I think it would take more than 5 minutes. And when you're working with the planner, going through the entire timeline with the planner, you're just able to kind of shift things throughout the day so that it's easier for yourself, but most importantly, easier for the bride and groom to enjoy their day because you know what realistic expectations and time points to set. And also, too, on top of that, the bonus is you're building a strong relationship with the planner. And so the
Mhm.
planner sees how great of how proactive you are and how great of a photographer you are. And so then that also increases the likelihood of them working with you in the future.
Yeah, I always say, like, if you can leave a really good first impression the first time you work with a planner, you can expect to work with again. That's really, really important for them to trust that you are reliable. And, I think I keep hearing this and it's true. We're all talented. We all produce an amazing product. So we need to like stand out. And I feel like I already know how you stand out, Nikki, because of the things I've already mentioned. Like you're just super reliable. And I think you're a little type A, which definitely goes to your favor.
A little
but
too much.
I mean, seriously, I never have to worry if you're gonna be even a little bit late or if you didn't catch this detail. It's amazing, like, it's appreciated. But, is there anything else that you do for your business that you think makes you stand out against l the crazy competition that there is out there? There's just so many of us.
Oh gosh. That's a really good question, actually, because I feel like in this market, it's pretty saturated and it could be hard to stand out, especially with social media. Our feeds are extremely flooded and we're always trying to run after trends, right?
Mhm.
And it's kind of easy to get caught up with the trends. But I think honestly, the best thing is just being yourself and being original and just doing what feels right to you because at the end of the day, you're the artist, right?
Yeah.
So you have creative control. And so whenever you express yourself and show your individuality, I think the clients that the right clients that see that will gravitate towards you.
Oh my gosh, yes. That is so true, and I love that, and I think who we are does matter a lot to clients, especially nowadays. I just put out an episode about Gen Z, and you are Gen Z. I feel like it's more of a learning curve for me to, like, figure out your generation, but that everyone's talking about Gen Z because that is who we are working with now. And
Hmm.
so, I know that it's all about authenticity and that who you are matters. I feel like I've always put myself out there even when, like, let's say in the luxury market, you were supposed to be a little more elusive and it was just really about your work. But
Hmm.
I love that it is about who's behind the business. And is there anything specifically that you're doing? Like, I don't think you put yourself out on social media enough. You need to put yourself out there more.
I think that's one of the points I need to work on. I need to put myself out there more because at the end of the day, you're the person who represents the brand, right? So people want to be able to connect with you and relate with you and be able to put a name to a face, right? And for me, I like to be private, but I think that's what comes with the business, right? You have to show more of yourself and show up for yourself and for everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, most creatives I don't think crave the camera, it's like they just wanna do their craft. But
Exactly.
because it is a business, yes, you have to. I mean, it's sad to say because, we just wanna work on the craft, but no, there's so much to it,
Hmm.
and part of marketing is marketing yourself, yeah. So, and I think you have the cutest personality, Nikki. You should
Oh my
definitely be putting it out
god. Thank you. I'll try.
there. Good, you better. But yeah, I mean, so you're like dealing with people your age getting married, and I don't know why I said dealing with, but but
Sometimes you have to deal with people. So,
I guess yeah. Okay, yeah. Speaking of dealing with Gen Z, do you find this is true?
um, I haven't really seen that pattern. I think for me, the clients that ghost me, maybe they kind of get overwhelmed with my emails. I noticed that I need to start because I'm so type A, but I noticed that I needed to start maybe like fine tuning and condensing my emails because they just had a load of information on it. And if you think about it, if you ever receive an email with too much info on it, are you going to read it? Probably not. So you definitely want to simplify your responses to your clients so that it's easier for them to process all that information. And it is a lot of it could be stressful shopping for the right vendors, so you want to
Yeah.
simplify your emails. I think for Gen Z, maybe people are seeing that trend because, my theory is that maybe social media, I feel like in this day and age and social media is constantly progressing. Millennials, we had Instagram, right? So it was
Yeah.
just a lot of brain rot. But I think with TikTok, the pace is so much faster, and I feel like TikTok came with the Gen Zers, right? And so, with TikTok, it's just it's like constant brain rot, but you're having to scroll through so much data, but also you condition yourself to seeing so much content within such a short frame of time. And so I think
Uh,
maybe that could be impacting the way that Gen Zers interact with society and photographers and you
Man,
know
I didn't think about that, but now that you say it, it is so true. Like the way that yeah, because I feel like they are all on TikTok. And
Mhm.
so are we, right? Because we need to do this for our business. So there are so many of us photographers, any kind of vendor putting out like short form like education to our couples. Oh my gosh, that must be overwhelming.
Yeah. And so I think that probably might be contributing to, the theory that Gen Zers are ghosting, because they probably just see so many vendors, right, online. It's a saturated market. So they just have so much people to select from, and then they just kind of like scroll through.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to us working together. I'm curious, what was your first impression of working with me?
Yeah. So my first impression was that you were approachable and you just had this comforting energy. And I just felt, and because you had that type of energy, I just felt secure and I felt a little more confident in my craft. And I feel like with your energy, you just being able to second with you and work with you, you've taught me a lot about leading with your energy and that in turn controlling the room a bit. So with energy, I never thought I would learn that energy has a big impact on weddings or your bride and groom, right? You're as a photographer, you're following them around all day, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to remember you for the rest of their life, right? And so the way you convey yourself or your demeanor, that also has an impact on the people around you. And so when I first met you and I just saw this like calm, approachable, kind person, it just made me feel so secure in myself. And so I see the way you interact with your clients and how you're able to just kind of navigate anything because you're able to have like provide a calming presence to people.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I feel like that is something that is really important, and that's really cool that you noticed that because I think that that's like something important for who I'm working with also, right? Because I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel like you said confident and like that I have faith in what you're doing on the wedding day and yeah, I mean, energy for sure. I feel like it wasn't so much talked about before or even like a consideration. And maybe it's because things just were more structured in the past. I don't know, but I think yeah. I think that's really important. And, you know, I've worked with you too as a second shooter, and I feel the same way about you. Like, you are just like so lovely, and just you have like this like such a bubbly personality that it just makes everyone happy around you. So I think like we're a good combo of like happy and calm. Yeah, so I really appreciate that. And is there something that you learned that you didn't expect to when we've worked together?
Oh gosh, yeah. Listen, I learned so much from you, but another thing that I learned is that people look. So, for example, when tying back to energy, right? Um, people will observe your demeanor and, whether you're smiling or whether they could tell if you're frustrated. And so for me, watching you work, you're just so great at interacting with people and seamlessly. And so watching you work, I've seen, and I think you mentioned in your previous podcast that you have like a tendency
Oh,
tendency to smile when you get nervous. But
yeah.
I I realized that before I worked with you, I think I had RBF.
Really? I
Yeah,
cannot even imagine that, Nikki. You're like the most joyful person I've ever met.
maybe it wasn't RBF. I remember one time this client came or the groom's best man came up to me and he's like, "You have the most serious face when you're shooting." And he's like, "And I can tell that you're in the zone." And then I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, that could come off the wrong way?"
I
And
mean, if someone perceives it as in you're in the zone, then that I mean, that's a positive thing. You're like, you know, really concentrating, but yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that. Like, it could be positive. It's like you're really serious about your job, you know?
yeah, I guess it could come off that way, but I think for optics, you do want to show a more positive expression when you're working because as a photographer, you are in the middle of everything. You're in the middle of the aisle, you're in the middle of the dance floor.
Yeah.
You are visible to every single person. You're visible to the bride and groom's family, to their friends. You are in everyone's view. So it's really important for optics to obviously control your expressions, but also control your demeanor. And in my opinion, I know some photographers think it's not important what you wear, but I really do think, and what this is what you've taught me, I feel like it is important what you wear and how you present yourself because that sets the tone for how you interact with a couple and how everyone perceives you.
Yeah, and you know what? You can dress to the occasion, right? Like, you're not gonna dress the same way, like, for that Hawaii wedding that we did together. We're not
Mhm,
gonna dress up to the nines like we normally would
mhm,
at a high-end wedding in Orange County. So, yeah, just dress to, like, what the dress code is of the wedding, and, of course, you wanna be comfortable, you know, but then I'll you've seen me change out my shoes, you know? I'll wear, like, nice shoes, like, when I'm front facing, like, at the ceremony, and then I'll put my sneakers on for the reception. But yeah, it's definitely important, and just the way that you handle yourself with not just the couple, but with the guests too, right? Like,
yes.
that's the thing that I learned, that, you know, guests are people that are maybe gonna refer you, you know, like, I've had weddings where bridesmaids have booked me because they loved their experience with me. So, yeah,
Mhm,
you of course, you're there for the couple, but you need to think about how you are with everyone around you. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Because if the guests notice something about you that's off, that could be potentially communicated to the bride and groom, and that could impact your reputation, right? You're representing your own brand, so it's important that you uphold to those expectations that you set for yourself.
yeah. Okay, so I wanna talk about, like, how I feel like you also compliment me on a wedding day because we kind of differently in the fact that you have like, you bring lights. What made you interested in getting into the off-camera flash?
I just love the look of off-camera flash. I think it's so fun. I love the look of off-camera flash because it kinda gives this, like, glowy, romantic Hollywood vibe, and it's
Yeah.
just so nostalgic, and I just love that, and I just love Flash in general. I think in the beginning, as a beginner photographer, I was so scared of flash. I was definitely afraid of it. I was like, I don't know what to do when the lights turn off. Okay, like let me just shoot and hope for the best, you know? But I feel like once I feel like what intrigued me to get really into Flash was that it was a fear for me, but I realized, I wanted to keep fine tuning my craftsmanship as a photographer. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to conquer Flash. And you know what? I like the look of it. And so I
Yeah.
just kept playing around with it. And then once you're able to master your craft in Flash, it's like, any type of situation you encounter in a wedding, right? Because when we go to weddings, the situations are always variable, they're always different. Sometimes you'll shoot in a super black dark room, right? But you have to still
Right.
produce, right? And so that's kind of what drew me to Flash. But yeah, I think Flash is so fun.
Yeah, and I am resistant to the off-camera flash. I feel like, I can do great things with my on-camera flash, but when we work together, I appreciate again, for me, it's all about variety, giving my couples a variety. And that's what that does too. It's like they get different looks and maybe they prefer one over the other, but they have that option of what they want to, post or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and that makes sense that that's what motivated you because it is a component of wedding photography. So, I think it's smart to want to be able to be proficient in everything, like,
Mhm.
doing film, doing drone. And I give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you. I'm still learning though, so I,
Like
it's
you said, we're always learning. Yes.
yeah, and I think that's important. Just recognizing that you can always learn, and that's it.
So one thing that I love too is that you're my travel buddy and like, we're definitely happy to hop on a plane and do a destination wedding. Have you always liked to travel? Was that something that you even thought of doing when you first got into wedding photography, traveling?
I just love traveling. I make it my prerogative to want to travel everywhere, and traveling is just a hobby, or not even a hobby. It's just something I want to do for the rest of my life. And I know you love traveling too, Lisette. So for us, like it's an added bonus when we're able to book destinations that we want to go to. And it just makes you more excited to just hone in on your craft and make beautiful images for the bride and groom.
Yeah, it's just quite an experience to be able to see different culture, to be immersed in it, and to enjoy the amazing landscapes because I feel like every destination wedding is, they chose this place because of the landscape usually. So, yeah, I just think traveling makes you like a more well-rounded person.
Mm.
And also, if you're doing, um, if you're working with certain clientele who also, like to do the things that you do, well, that gives you a little bit of a leg up to like be able to talk about places you've been or like, the hobbies that you enjoy. It's just, there's so much to think about, right, with our businesses. So do you see yourself like doing a lot more destination weddings or do you like to do it like where it's a good balance? Because I know some people who are just constantly traveling. Is that going to be you?
I feel like I'm used to traveling a lot already. So if I became more destination focused, I think it wouldn't be as hard of a transition for me. My only gripe about being a destination photographer is transporting your equipment. And as you mentioned earlier, I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of flashes, I have a lot of lights. And so I think that's my only gripe about being a travel or destination photographer. But I do foresee myself becoming more of a destination photographer because I think it's so much fun. And it's just, it's like I said, or mentioned earlier, it's an added bonus going to shoot a wedding in a place or a destination that you like. And sometimes you kind of want to break the monotony of, shooting at the same locations. So just being able to shoot at different destinations just makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, it's much more fulfilling, that's for sure. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if you can, if you're not held down by kids like I am, you can do it a lot more. I'm
Both of us are going to travel more, so
yeah, yeah. No, I feel lucky that I have great people to look over the kids while I'm gone. But I never try to go for too long either. So that's the other thing. It's like I know some people just like go for the wedding and that's it. Like they have to come home. And I try to at least enjoy a couple days at the destination apart from the wedding day, right?
yeah, for
Especially
sure.
if it's somewhere you haven't been. So
Mhm. Yeah. So, I feel like being a destination photographer has opened so many doors for us, and you would never for me personally, when I look back and think, "Wow, the journey, right, of being a photographer," I started not really knowing what I was doing to, wow, I'm going to Mexico to shoot a wedding. This is incredible. I never foresaw that in my future, right? But also, besides the point of loving traveling, it's a blessing to be able to have couples that trust you and that love your craft so much that they're willing to fly you out. And that is such an incredible feeling.
that's a big one. I mean, when you think about it, yeah, they that's a big trust right there. Or the fact that tells you so much that they really want you there, even though they could probably be less for a local photographer. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely such a great feeling. Okay, so last question. What advice would you give photographers who are early in their career when it comes to finding a mentor?
Yeah, I think that the best thing you can do is second shoot. When you second shoot, you are working with photographers who have been in the industry for quite some time. And when you're second shooting, you can observe things and take those skills that you've observed and implement them into your own skill set. So just kind of learning, basically learning on the job, but also like learning through observing others. And I feel like working with you, I learned so much. And I feel like being able to have the opportunity to second shoot with you elevated my skill set in such a short span of time.
Oh
And
wow.
when you find, yeah, when you find that right mentor, um, it's life changing because in the beginning, you're alone, and obviously, you're trying to navigate the industry on your own, and it does take quite some time to learn some things. It's a lot of trials and tribulations. But when
Yeah.
you have the right mentor, I had the right mentor, but when you have the right mentor, um, it's not that you want to rush, right, and expedite it. Obviously, it takes quite some time, and you need to get the experience in order to uh, sharpen your skills. But having a mentor kind of helps you learn things much faster than you would learn on your own. And so, um, for example, I would have never been aware of the sinking of the cars, right? Unless
Mhm.
I didn't second shoot with you and then you brought that to my attention and then I didn't realize the impact, right, that that has on post production, right?
Yeah.
So, just being able to second and find the right mentor makes the journey just so much more gratifying and just so much more pleasurable because if you're, navigating the world alone, it could get lonely and it could get rough. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's why I appreciate working with people like you who definitely value what we're doing and just enjoy it so much. I think like that's because yeah, you just talked about how much you learned, but you're also having fun along the way, and I really love being around you for that reason, and I think it's really important that we have this camaraderie amongst each other and just are able to have, the community over competition also, and I'm
mhm.
always happy to, just give my knowledge and answer any questions anyone has. That's partly why I'm doing this, and thank you for coming on the podcast with me.
Of course. Yeah. It was such an honor to be on here with you. And I, honestly, Lisette, like, I feel like you're so humble. You don't highlight how great of a person and photographer you are. And so just coming on here and being able to emphasize how great of a photographer and great of a person you are, I just wanted to make that clear. So thank you for having me. And I'm just grateful to have you as my mentor and also my friend.
Nikki, oh my god, you're gonna make me cry. Seriously, I all I have to do is talk to you and any bad mood goes away.
Oh,
I
no.
really I appreciate you so much. Like you have been like seriously, you've been my biggest cheerleader. And it's surprising that not everyone can say that about the people that they work with. Um, just being around you made me realize like that not everyone is like you, you know? So
Oh my gosh, stop. No.
it's it's so true. So I have to thank you also because just it makes me like happier to do this job, this have this career, you know, because I get to work with people like you. So thank you so much, Nikki. And again, for your time, for it's coming on the podcast. And can you tell people one more time where they can find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is NicoleMichelle.photo. And yeah, just follow me on Instagram.
Yes, check out her work. Amazing with that off camera flash.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks again. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.